Mr. Matos, what do you think about the bailout in general? Just give me your...
Oh, I don't even have the words. The bailout is such a terrible plan. And what it does is it creates money that doesn't exist in order to prop up the price levels of bad debt. In other words, the people will be purchasing debt to save a bunch of people who were over leveraging their businesses in order to keep their finances looking much higher than they really would be. But the thing about the market is that the market will not allow this to take place. The market will eventually win out overall and correct itself. So if someone has a debt in their hands and they say it's worth $1.5 million, but the house is only worth $300,000, and the person who had that mortgage defaulted, then you really only have $300,000. You don't have $1.5 million. And this is what's causing this collapse and panic. It's a dollar bubble as a result of the inflation from the Community Reinvestment Act and the Federal Reserve giving cheap credit and cheap money to people to make bad investments with. In a real free market, there would only be the money available. And with that money available, people would invest it much more carefully because they would understand there's a possibility of loss. With fake cheap credit going out throughout the market, then there will be compounded losses because people will invest it anywhere and everywhere without any regard. And when the government will always bail you out, then you're never worried about this thing. Of course, you and I, the average citizen, are worried about it because we're not going to get bailed out if our credit ratings go down, or if we need better credit to get money, or if we need to pay our payrolls if we own a small business, or to buy supplies. But the big banks, they don't have to worry about that because the government's always there to save them, and that's a really big problem.
I see. And so what do you think are going to be the overall consequences, long-term consequences of this bailout?
Well, I think when you look at the bailout, when it was passed, when it wasn't passed on Monday, the 29th, they were saying that the sky was going to fall, and all these doomsayers were saying that, oh my God, it's going to be the end of the world as we know it if the credit markets aren't allowed to be opened again. But when you look at it, that same day, because the government was scaring people, they were selling their assets and selling their stocks. So the market plunged by 777 points, which was, accordingly, supposedly $1 trillion. That's people's 401ks and whatnot. But then, at the same time, the next morning, nobody talks about it. The bailout didn't pass. The price of gold started going down. European banks started inflating, and the dollar started gaining strength. And then the stock market gained back 2/3 of that initial loss, and it gained it out back throughout the week without any thought about it. It's the scare tactics that scare these Wall Street bankers into selling off their stocks. It scares people into selling off their assets because, if they don't have the bailout. But when the market realizes that this is not going to work, it'll fix itself. The price of gold going down is a good thing. Even though I have a lot of money invested in gold, it's a good thing. It means that our dollars are worth more. That means your purchasing power of your dollar will buy more. And that was always a good thing. But then they came on Friday, added another $150 billion to it, which is nothing but inflation. Because, the honest fact of the matter is that this country is $10 billion in debt, with $53 trillion of liabilities far ahead, maybe 20 years from now. We're going to be in the hole really bad. And to just create money, people don't realize you may not think about your 401k today, but what about your children's college fund tomorrow? You're not going to have money for that. This is just going to make the dollar go down, and it might even cause the eventual crash, because when foreign banks realize that their dollars are not worth anything and that they want to have real assets in exchange for those dollars, then the dollar's going to crash. What we've been able to do is get away with exporting our inflation, because once the dollar has become the standard of the world, just like gold used to be, everybody said, oh, well, the dollar is going to be the standard. The oil is pegged on the dollar. Gold is pegged on the dollar. And so what we were able to do was, when we bought things, we shipped out our inflation, and we didn't feel the effects as much here. But now we're going to start feeling it, believe it or not. These foreigners are not going to hold on to dollars that are worthless. There are many Americans who are not holding on to dollars because they're gaining less and less strength as the days go by. So I think the consequences will be bad for us in the overall long run. And, it may have hurt in the next year or 6 months and, that kind of thing. But eventually, it's going to last 10 years of a much greater depression.
Well, what do you think people should do? I mean, people are obviously, they don't support this. What do you think people should do? I mean, should they talk to their congressman? What should they do?
Well, I would say call your congressman, but that obviously doesn't work because Congress lost out. They passed the bill after 9-1. People, 90% of the population called. There was record-breaking calls to the Congress, to their switchboards. They've never had so many people call, send emails, write letters, and tell them not to pass this bill. And what did Congress do? They passed this bill anyway. And how did they pass it? They added all kinds of pork spending into it. Oh, we'll give you a little $150 million for Bacardi on tax cuts, and we'll give you a little $150 million for your pet project. But nobody thought about the unintended consequences of the future. And what I would say to people is that you have to tell these people to get lost, bail them out. Bail them out of Washington. You have to make real choices and vote for people that you can trust and that have your best interests at hand. You have to stop trusting these people in Congress because they think they're smarter than you, but they have special interest involved in this. And they'll pass things regardless if you tell them not to. And they may pander to you and say, oh, I was thinking about my mom's 401k or the Main Street because this is going to affect Main Street in the long run. Well, all you're going to do by bailing out Wall Street to save Main Street is allow Wall Street to do this again. And this is what's going to happen. Believe me when I tell you. So all I can say is you're going to have to stop trusting these people. They're all, McCain, Obama all supported this bill. The members of Congress and New York's Democratic delegation supported this bill. And without thinking about the economy, people that sit on the Financial Services Committee did not think about the inflation. They don't think about how much money we are losing by the day just by buying foreign oil, just by our Social Security extension. Nobody thinks about this. But you're going to start feeling it now. You're going to think about it every day. So I'm just telling you now, when November comes around, 1 month from today, you better vote these people out and have some real change going on. Because this is not about changing a person's face. This is about changing the people that are in there to people you trust. You got to start voting for your neighbor, your doctor, people like that have responsibilities and know what it's like to run for office and know what it's like to really care for people. And, that's all I can really say about what people should do. Besides that, buy yourself some gold. Get rid of your dollars.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Isaiah Matos for Congress. Good luck in your campaign, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.